Workbook Lesson 80. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. Before we go through this lesson today, let me just say that I will be doing my first YouTube live stream this coming Monday, the 22nd, July 22nd, I believe it's the 22nd, at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I'm in Florida, so wherever you are in the world, if you want to jump in, if you're in Europe, it'll be probably about 6 p.m. your time. California, 3 p.m. Wherever you are, even if you're in a very far-flung place, please join if you'd like. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna talk. We're gonna share about the course. We'll do a little reading from the course. We'll do a little discussion, question Q&A. So if you want to join, that'd be great. I also want to just mention that I have some books on Amazon if you're interested under the name Allow Alani. I'll try to remember to put a link to that. And today is lesson 80. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. And this is following yesterday's lesson 79, which was almost exactly the same. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And now let me recognize my problems have been solved. Okay. Paragraph 1. If you are willing to recognize your problems, you will recognize that you have no problems. Your one central problem has been answered and you have no other. Therefore, you must be at peace. Salvation thus depends on recognizing this one problem and understanding that it has been solved. One problem, one solution. Salvation is accomplished. Freedom from conflict has been given you. Accept that fact and you are ready to take your rightful place in God's plan for salvation. Paragraph 2. Your only problem has been solved. Repeat this over and over to yourself today with gratitude and conviction. You have recognized your only problem, opening the way for the Holy Spirit to give you God's answer. You have laid deception aside and seen the light of truth. You have accepted salvation for yourself by bringing the problem to the answer. And you can recognize the answer because the problem has been identified. Paragraph 3. You are entitled to peace today. A problem that has been resolved cannot trouble you. Only be certain you do not forget that all problems are the same. Their many forms will not deceive you while you remember this. One problem, one solution. Accept the peace this simple statement brings. Paragraph 4. In our longer practice periods today, we will claim the peace that must be ours when the problem and the answer have been brought together. The problem must be gone because God's answer cannot fail. Having recognized one, you have recognized the other. The solution is inherent in the problem. You are answered and have accepted the answer. You are saved. Paragraph 5. Now let the peace that your acceptance brings be given you. Close your eyes and receive your reward. Recognize that your problems have been solved. Recognize that you are out of conflict, free and at peace. Above all, remember that you have one problem and that the problem has one solution. It is in this that the simplicity of salvation lies. It is because of this that it is guaranteed to work. Assure yourself often today that your problems have been resolved. Repeat the idea with deep conviction as frequently as possible. Paragraph 6, sorry. Let's read it again. Paragraph 6. Assure yourself often today that your problems have been solved. Repeat the idea with deep conviction as frequently as possible. And be particularly sure to apply the idea for today to any specific problem that may arise. Say quickly, let me recognize this problem has been solved. Paragraph 7. Let us be determined not to collect grievances today. Let us be determined to be free of problems that do not exist. The means is simple honesty. Do not deceive yourself about what the problem is, and you must recognize it has been solved. Okay, we're going to go through this paragraph by paragraph. This is a shorter one. Lesson 80. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. Paragraph 1. If you are willing to recognize your problems, you will recognize that you have no problems. That's an interesting statement. Now, if you don't know the course, that sounds crazy. You're going to recognize your problems. If you recognize your problems, you will recognize you have no problems. Your one central problem has been answered and you have no other. Well, how has it been answered? How have my problems been answered? Or how has my central problem been answered? Therefore, you must be at peace. Salvation thus depends on recognizing this one problem and understanding that it has been solved. One problem, one solution. Salvation is accomplished. Freedom from conflict has been given you. Accept that fact and you are ready to take your rightful place in God's plan for salvation. All right. So, this is what the whole course is talking about over and over and over again, and it's following on the heels of yesterday's lesson. There's one problem. What is the one problem? The one problem is separation, or the belief in separation. The Son of God, which is us, which is all of us, we believe that we are separate. And that belief, Jesus says, is a belief to be undone. The undoing of that is easy in a sense. It's simple and it can be easy because it's already done for us. The work is already cut out for us. Salvation has already been accomplished, is what Jesus keeps telling us. Which means what? It doesn't mean that Jesus has saved us necessarily. What it means is that separation is impossible. It's an impossible idea. So because it's impossible, it never happened. And because it never happened, the salvation is to realize that salvation is not necessary, because we don't need to be saved if we've never been apart from God. But we do have a belief in separation, and that is the problem. That is the one problem, that we believe that separation is real. If we could tackle that problem, if we could just keep it in our mind that is really the problem, then that would solve all of our problems. But it's not just recognizing the problem, it's also recognizing that the solution has already been given, which is that separation is impossible, right? So we have the problem, separation is true, and the solution, no, it's not true. Quickly, bring them together. Separation never happened, right? Now, this is a hard one for us to accept because this world seems so real. Separation seems so real. It's the words are easy enough to understand, and the concept is easy enough to understand. And on some level, we're like, yeah, that's right. We're all one. But when push comes to shove, what happens? We don't feel that way. We get sad. We get depressed. We feel like we've been treated unfairly. We feel resentful. We feel vengeful. We feel hatred in our heart. We feel lust in our heart. We feel all these things that are very difficult to shake. So in a sense, this is simple, but it ain't so easy for most of us, right? This is like a practice and a process. Paragraph 2. Your only problem has been solved! ! Repeat this over and over to yourself today with gratitude and conviction. Because God knows you're probably not convinced, but you want to say it with conviction as if you believe it. You have recognized your only problem, opening the way for the Holy Spirit to give you God's answer. So you're opening to not just say these words, but to experience what it is, right? You're opening to the experience. And that's what Jesus calls the Holy Spirit is now going to come, and he's going to give you some confirmation that what you're now choosing to believe is really true. It ain't no lie. You have laid deception aside and seen the light of truth. You have accepted salvation for yourself by bringing the problem to the answer. And you can recognize the answer because the problem has been identified. So you bring the problem, which is the belief in separation, to the answer, which is that separation is impossible. Only one of those can be true. Jesus is assuring us that it is true. Now, we probably don't completely believe that it's true, and that's part of the problem, right? but if you did accept, and this is what Jesus calls accepting the atonement for yourself. The atonement principle is that separation is unreal. Separation never happened. God has never changed. We have never changed because we are made. We are created in as the same loving presence that God is. Right. So it's because we are essentially God. That we have never changed either. But we believe that we have because we took this tiny mad idea seriously, which is the idea of separation. And Jesus is just saying, if you really accepted that atonement principle, then you would have no problems. And Jesus says, well, but I understand that that's hard to do. So I'm with you on this. I'm walking with you all the way home, as long, until you don't need me anymore. And then, Paragraph 3, you are entitled to peace today. A problem that has been resolved cannot trouble you. Only be certain you do not forget that all problems are the same. So you are entitled to peace. It's like I am entitled to miracles, right? You are entitled to peace today. You are worthy of love. You are love. A problem that has been resolved cannot trouble you. Only be certain that you do not forget that all problems are the same. All right, all your problems really go back to that one problem, separation, the idea of separation, the belief in separation. They're all different forms of the same basic problem, right? When you boil it all down, it's all the same thing. Their many forms will not deceive you while you remember this. One problem, one solution. He said this before. One problem, one solution. It's very simple. Accept the peace this simple statement brings. One problem, one solution. That could be your mantra, right? Instead of, let me recognize my problems have been solved is good. That's today's lesson. But you could also use one problem, one solution. One problem, one solution. Say it, think it like you mean it. In our longer practice periods today, we will claim the peace that must be ours when the problem and the answer have been brought together. The problem must be gone because God's answer cannot fail. Having recognized one, you have recognized the other. The solution is inherent in the problem. This is an interesting statement. The solution is inherent in the problem. How is that so? Well, separation is real. It's the problem, the belief in separation. And the solution is, well, is separation real? Why do you believe in separation? If God is one and God is the only reality, or the love of God is the only reality, then there could be no problem. I think that might be what he means. I'm not exactly sure. But I think the point is that the answer is already given, right? The answer has never changed. There's only one answer to this one problem, and it has never changed. The problem is the thing that came in there and tried to insert itself in the perfection of everything. You are answered and have accepted the answer. You are saved. Paragraph 5. Now let the peace that your acceptance brings be given you. Close your eyes and receive your reward. This is part of the longer practice periods. He doesn't say how long to do it. He doesn't say when to do it. But now he's saying, close your eyes and receive your reward. So you're asking for the peace, in the peace of God, basically. And now you're closing your eyes and you're receiving the peace of God. right? Recognize that your problems have been solved. Recognize that you're out of conflict, free and at peace. Above all, remember that you have one problem and that the problem has one solution. It is in this that the simplicity of salvation lies. It is because of this that it is guaranteed to work. This is very simple, and Jesus now has said it a third time. There's only one problem, there's only one solution. The solution is given. The solution is the simple fact that God has never changed. Paragraph 6. Assure yourself often today that your problems have been solved. And this is the shorter practice periods, right? So throughout the day, you just remember, all my problems have already been solved. I really don't have any problems. Why am I stressed out? Why am I worried? Why am I anxious? Why am I depressed? Why am I despairing, in misery, and all these other things that really, if we look at it honestly, that's really our default. That's where we are most of the time. We're in that state of panic. We're in that state of anxiousness, like something is hanging over us, right? And this is how to live free of that. If you want to be free of that, and if you want to be free to be your loving, creative self, you want to get rid of all of this other stuff that is probably in the way. Assure yourself often today that your problems have been solved. Repeat the idea with deep conviction, right? He says this again, say it with conviction, as frequently as possible, and be particularly sure to apply the idea for today to any specific problem that may arise. Say quickly, let me recognize this problem has been solved. So as soon as the ego comes in, as soon as the ego tries to insert itself again or assert itself again, you bring this in, you nip it in the bud right away. As soon as those thoughts, those anxious thoughts, those worried thoughts, those like, but what if this happens? What if that happens? What am I going to do? You start to, we all do this. We all have these scenarios that play out in our minds. Like, what if this, what if that? Or the other way is, in the past, like, I'm a horrible person. I've done all these bad things. My life is messed up. I messed up my life. I'm stuck in my ways. I can't get out of this. My life is a dead end. Whatever thoughts that may be coming up in our mind, you bring this in. Let me recognize this problem has been solved. I don't have a problem. I only believe that, whatever I believe about myself, everyone else is thinking too. We're all in the same boat with this, right? My problems are really not any worse or better than any other person out there. They're the same, they're just taking different forms. So everything really has been solved when you recognize the only answer is let it go. Let it go and help others to get out of their misery as well. And in the sharing of this is why I'm doing these videos as well, is because in the sharing of this is strength, right? We strengthen ourselves by sharing these teachings. It's crazy how it works. It does really work. Paragraph 7, let us be determined not to collect grievances today. So now he's bringing grievances again. He didn't bring it in the last lesson, but the grievances are the same thing. Problems and grievances are the same, right? Any grievance is usually, problems are basically between us and other people, right? And that's what grievances are. We have a grievance against someone or something, but usually it's someone in our life. We can't see them in the light. We can't accept them for what they truly are. We judge them based on appearances, based on the superficial things that they're saying or they're doing, how they're acting toward us or how they're acting towards another, which is not to say that we don't try to correct the situation on the level of form if we need to, right? It's not like we're just letting it go, but we're also not judging them. That's the main thing. We're not holding a grievance. We're not holding a judgment. Let us be determined to be free of problems that do not exist. The means is simple honesty. Do not deceive yourself about what the problem is, and you must recognize it has been solved. So don't make the problem what you think it is, right? Don't make the problem like they did that to me, and and they're just a jerk, or worse, they're a horrible person, or they're wrong. They're wrong. I am right. That would be a grievance, right? That would be making the problem superficial and what it really is not. The real problem is a deeper problem, right? You could take the Band-Aid approach and you could solve the problem on the level of form, but that's not going to solve the deeper issue, the root cause of this. And the root cause is that belief in separation. And that's really what we need to look at. And that's what Jesus is trying to help us to look at, is that root cause of all of our problems, right? And if we apply the solution to all of our problems at once, we will quickly see that we really have no problems, and which is almost impossible to think could be true, but just try it and see. And you got to try it, and then you'll see. Anyway, we're on to the next review. We've done 80 lessons now, and we're on to review number 2. All right, so that'll be for next time. And I just want to mention one more time again that I'm going to be doing a live stream on Monday, this coming Monday at 12 noon. If you want to come on, if you want to say hi, pop in, talk, ask questions, give answers, give your own story. I'm not putting a time limit on it. We'll just see how it goes. And when no one else is there to talk, maybe we'll end it. But all right. Thank you. See you. Whoa.